Our journey with Australian Bachelorette Angie Kent continues, and you know we are trucking right along to hometown dates and the final four. So sit your butt down and crack open the Vegemite because our recap of the Bachelorette Australia continues. But before we get to the final four, we have to, get to the final four. Which has got to be really awkward for these two guys as they're the only ones who haven't got one-on-one time with Angie yet. And boy oh boy, they better up the ante real quick, because I would have to say this has been, so far, one of the most predictable seasons to date, at least when it comes to frontrunners. Only made easier by the fact that Carlinn left earlier in the season, who could have also been a top 4 if he had stayed. So to start the episode off, the gang walk in on a rack of old clothing. And when I say old, I really mean it, as the group is going to be dressing up as grandpas and competing in a dancing competition to win some pivotal one-on-one time with Angie before hometowns gets decided. In come the men's dancing partners and...
Gilfs all round.
What's a gilf?
Moving on. The dance lesson begins, and boy are we treated to some next level moves. But after the dances and the whole competition is done, it's Ryan who goes home with the mirror ball trophy and wins that pivotal one-on-one time with Angie, which we'll learn is the only one-on-one time given out before the final four is picked. For their one-on-one, Angie is really excited to have some time to spend with Ryan. He really went out of his way to get on the show for her, and that's special.
And I feel like he put his whole life on hold to do something that he would never normally do.
I'm definitely not emphasizing this line to foreshadow something bad. Definitely not. On their date, Ryan and Angie answer questions like, have you peed in the shower before, and who's a better celebrity crush, Heath Ledger or Ryan Gosling, before going to meet with a sensualist, a love guru, a lady who makes them do sexy things. And while Angie and Ryan engage in intimacy exercises to deepen their connection, the boys back at the Bachelor pad are fuming over Ryan. They all think he's the frontrunner because of the dog stuff and DMing her before the show. I don't see it, but, okay, they might be onto something there. So Ryan comes back from all the touching and feeling, and he's got a big old smile on his face, which the other gents don't like. Enter Osher, who's got a new twist for the final cocktail party before hometowns. Instead of the usual fanfare and pulling Angie aside, the whole lot of them will be sitting down for a meal, and that's where this box comes into play. Every guy there will get to put questions inside.
You can ask anyone, anything, and those questions can be completely anonymous.
That's right, you can ask anything to anyone. Like, you could ask Alex here, who are you? And I've never seen you before, why are you on my screen? The gents then promise to tell the truth, which is probably better in the long run considering you're on TV and it's pretty easy to figure out if you're lying. First question goes to Carlinn.
Have you had any physical modifications?
And Carlinn's like, just my lips. That's it. He says he was feeling at a really low point during his divorce and that he decided to treat himself by getting his lips done. Next, to all the boys.
What's your favourite thing about Angie?
Oh, gosh.
Don't say being on her TV show. Don't say being on her TV show. Ryan says her kind heart.
It's essentially the reason why I signed up for this.
Yes, you signed up just for Angie. I'm not highlighting that for any reason at all.
Was this the first season of Bachelorette you applied for?
So Timm says he hasn't, Jackson said he did 3 or 4 years ago, and everyone's laughing, except Ryan. Because Ryan applied just a year ago.
Uh-oh.
Say, Ryan, didn't you mention you were only here for Angie and she's the only reason you applied for the show?
I'm here for you and you only. I wouldn't have signed up.
No, I didn't.
Had it been anyone else.
Ryan kind of brushes it off and says, it was what it was, and I thought Allie, the Bachelorette a year ago, seemed like a kind-hearted person, but we're all here and I'm really glad that I am. So we then cut to the rose ceremony where surely the final rose will be coming down to Ryan and the two guys who've had no screen time. Angie hands out the first rose and...
Brian.
He gets the first one. After all that? Huh. Okay. Well, when it comes down to Jackson and the other two dudes, it's no surprise that Jackson gets the rose and Matt and Alex go home. On to hometowns, where first up is Timm hailing from Terrigal, New South Wales. So the big thing with Timm is just how serious can he be? That's the big question for Angie. Everything else seems to be falling in place, but she worries about whether or not he's ready for the whole 9 yards of a serious committed relationship. So Angie's going to be looking to see what Timm's family think of him and her together, and what they think about him settling down. Angie's going to meet Timm's mum and dad.
And my brother PJ and Jackson. And Jackson's pretty much my other brother.
Oh no, not another person named Jackson. Every time I say that name, my dog comes in here expecting a treat or that something's gone horribly wrong. So Angie goes to meet Jackson, who's apparently into huge fruity drinks, and it's not long before the questions come out. Do you see yourself with Timm? What about the other guys? What makes Timm more special than the others? And Angie's like, can we not do this at the dinner table? And Jackson's like, sure, let's go sit down and chat. So basically Angie says, I feel great around Timm, but the only reason I wouldn't choose him was if he wasn't ready to settle down, which is a concern of mine. Then Jackson says, well, Timm's a party boy, which Angie doesn't like. It's not that she doesn't want him to go out.
You can always go out and party. I just don't want someone to party every weekend.
Newsflash, that's sort of what happens.
And Angie's taken aback. But she's also not sure if she can trust Jackson. Is he telling the whole truth? Or is he trying to scare away Angie so he doesn't lose his best friend? So she pulls Timm aside and talks to him about his party boy nature, and Timm says, hey, I was living with other boys. Partying is what we did. But I also had girlfriends, and when something comes along that's better, the partying stops. I don't want to party all the time. And Angie says she'll take his word over Jackson's. And finally, it's time for a pash before moving on to the next hometown, which is Ryan in Sharky's Beach, New South Wales. And to be honest, Angie's not all that pumped up considering everything that happened at the last cocktail party. And not even a dog will distract Angie from getting to the bottom of this. So Ryan explains that he didn't go out of his way to audition, he was asked, and he didn't make it past the first round of auditions. He didn't even know who the Bachelorette was going to be at the time. However, this time around, he knew it was Angie and was going to do whatever it took to get on. Which kind of makes Angie feel better, but the whole situation has still put a sour taste in her mouth. And Ryan too. As with his family, he expresses to his brothers that he's mucked things up with this whole audition fiasco. And so, Ryan's bro brings it up right at the dinner table because he feels Ryan has some genuine feelings for Angie that he wasn't expecting. And ultimately, Angie sees the emotion from Ryan and his family vouching for him and says, you know what? I'm just going to trust my gut on this one. Which is yes, she trusts Ryan. So, the rest of the night is great. Ryan is relieved. So relieved, he lets this out.
I'm dead set falling for you so hard.
And you know what that means. Pashing time. Third up is Jackson, and my dog is really getting concerned here. Angie's in Sydney to meet up with the meat pie guy and his meat pie family and their meat pie company.
Pie, yes. I've been waiting the whole season to say that.
Did you bring this guy to the Final Four just to make that joke? Was it really worth it? Anyways, the concern for Jackson is that he hasn't quite opened up yet, like some of the others have. So Angie wants to see more of what he's feeling if she's going to continue on with him. So Jackson brings her in for another pie. This time, it's gluten-free and vegan, so Angie can actually eat it. The two then start their whoa, hold up a minute. Alright, this guy is a keeper. That is a proper pour of wine right there. If that doesn't tell you this guy is a keeper, I don't know what does. But right as Angie's starting to chow down on her gluten-free pie, Jackson starts talking family. Which isn't bad because he's letting her know that his dad is quite the bossy and intimidating guy. It's bad because they haven't had time to talk about each other. And that was Angie's big concern, opening up about feelings. Oh, also this.
I think Dad just doesn't want me to end up with a freeloader.
Did you really just say that to me?
Yikes, not the greatest start. So Angie meets the family and Dad's like, Jackson has his future mapped out. It's not gonna change just because of some girl. He's heir to the meat pie throne. And Mom's like,
Is that like kids soon?
kids, really? Yeah, mixed signals coming from the two parents. But Dad's the big boss and he's got questions. Like, hey, what's Angie's job? Reality TV. Oh, reality TV, eh? So that's freelance work. You don't know where your next work opportunity is coming from. Yes, but next question, where are you from? Sunshine Coast. Well, my son lives here and works here, so that won't do. Angie eventually survives the grilling, and it's time for dinner where, well, the grilling continues. Dad's got an heir to a meat pie business to protect.
Do you worry that there's enough time in his life for someone like you?
He did not just... Did you just say that?
So finally, Angie breaks free from the grilling by sitting down with Jackson's dad and getting grilled even more. Papa Meat Pie says a father always wants his kids to find someone who's got similar traits, like his son, who is hardworking, independent.
Those sort of traits are really, you can't learn them.
Alright, this is where I got a bit pissed off. Not just for Angie, who is getting completely disrespected by this idiot, but for basic human decency and common sense. Saying you can't learn how to be hardworking and independent is a slap in the face to anyone who's had to work hard for anything and be independent. And obviously he's also insinuating that Angie isn't hardworking or independent, as if she fell ass backwards into her show on Gogglebox and her position as the Bachelorette.
Boo this man!
And what sucks is that behind all this buffoonery, this dude does have a legitimate concern. That his son works here, and he can't go live with her in the Sunshine Coast. So that would be a long-distance relationship, which requires a lot of, hard work, and means sometimes your partner isn't there, so you'll have to be independent. And Angie then says, well, she would never force him to live anywhere, family comes first, and all of a sudden Dad gets a smile on his face and says, oh yeah, you match, I can see a connection between you two. And as we're getting ready to leave, the one concern I'm thinking about is, didn't Angie say she wanted Jackson to open up more? Did that happen? And then, as if producers poked and prodded Jackson... Oh, okay, I thought he might muster something up there, but never mind. Last up is Carlinn in Sydney, and while things seem great with him, Carlinn still has that whole divorce thing in his life. Like, from a year and a half ago, kind of still in his life. But that's not really gonna matter because...
I think I've been falling for Carlinn for a long time.
First, Carlinn takes Angie to the gym he works at, so, he can show her his muscles. And Carlinn obviously must have seen how horrid Jackson's hometown went, as he immediately sits her down and spews openness and vulnerability at her until she's all soft and sappy before taking her to meet his family. Angie's going to meet Carlinn's brother and sister-in-law, who've been with Carlinn through all the divorce stuff. So naturally they're going to be very protective, and it doesn't take long after the initial introductions for Carlinn's brother to pull Angie aside to see if there's a genuine connection there. So when Carlinn's brother asks about Angie's intentions, Angie makes the surprise move of the century, pulling out the reverse Uno card and saying, no you. Remember when Jamie said Carlinn was here for his TV career? Well, Angie asks Carlinn's brother if there's any truth to that.
Leading up to this was acting, pursuing his acting career.
Not the answer we were looking for. And Angie's like, do you think Carlinn could be using this for fame? And all he can say is, at the start? Yeah, maybe. Which is really not the answer she was looking for. But then we get a double reverse, because Carlinn's brother says that as much as he was into acting, he can see a strong connection here.
Which is kind of shocking.
Alright, we've got a game of 4D chess going on because this totally disarms Angie. I mean, she's still concerned, but instead of throwing him out in the curb, she's intrigued. The show then rushes through dinner and gets us to their final goodbye, and Angie's not one to let things slide. So she brings up the acting situation.
Legit, I promise you that was not what I wanted.
Anytime anyone says legit that's not true, I find it hard to believe. But anyways, here we get the third reverse Uno card.
I could look at you and think, 2 shows under your belt, there's no way in hell you'd be here for love.
Which on one hand seems like a bold move to say to the lead of a reality TV show, but her response is this.
Just me being me, I'm not acting.
Aha! And you've activated Carlinn's trap card, because then he gets to say,
but that's me being me, I'm not acting either.
Okay, this is some serious mental gymnastics going on. Angie says I'm a reality TV star, but I've learned out in the jungle that I deserve love, and I can actually feel love here. And Carlinn's then like, yo, me too. This is exactly what I've been saying. I've learned the same thing here. What I'm saying is, samesies, yo. Samesies. Still, hearing this from Jamie is one thing, hearing it from Carlinn's frickin' brother is another. So Carlinn gives his last plea. Dump me now then, because I don't want you second guessing our relationship down the line. And what gets me is this shot. Frickin' the dude is bawling out here. Either he's some Daniel Day-Lewis level of acting, or he's being genuine. Angie then also walks away crying, and that's where they leave off their hometown. Finally, we get to the rose ceremony before the final 3. Ryan gets the first rose, then Timm. Naturally, it's up to Angry Dad versus Can I Trust You?
Carlinn.
Of course, Jackson goes home after not being able to say anything other than, yeah, I like you to Angie after hometowns. And not to mention the whole Papa Meat Pie fiasco. And I gotta say, Carlinn is so far winning me over. Look how he reacts to accepting the rose.
Carlinn, will you accept this rose?
Yes, I'll accept.
Yeah, I'll accept. Now that was cute. And that's it for the Bachelorette AU Hometowns recap. Angie's journey for love continues, and Jackson's dad can breathe a sigh of relief. By that I mean both Papa Meat Pie, as his son can go back to work, and me, as there are no more people named Jackson left on the show to get my dog riled up when I record audio. So thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until next time, Bachelor Fantake, out.
Gilfs all round.
What's a gilf?